This episode may have been the most refreshing Walking Dead episode I've seen in a while. Like, honestly, I know that they were like literally on the water and everything, but it was just so refreshing to watch this episode after, Dead City season 2 and I guess what the story was in season 2 of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, because I just wasn't the biggest fan of that season. There was only 6 episodes and the story really was rushed, I would say. And this season, though, is starting off really amazingly, and there's a lot of really awesome things here. There was actually a Daryl Dixon flashback to when he was a kid. There was a lot of stuff here that I think is teasing what to expect this season, and I'm excited. Honestly, I do get all the positive reviews now after watching this first episode. Like, I do think that this might be what The Walking Dead needs right now in terms of a refresher, right? So yeah, anyways, before we go any further, I do have to warn you that this will contain spoilers for the very first episode, so yeah, just be aware of that, and also obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. But let's just talk about episode 1. So this episode as a premiere, I think actually did really great for setting up what the story is going to be this season. I know we didn't really get into the Spain storyline really, like they got into it a little bit, I guess, at the end, and we'll talk about that, but I do think that they teased everything, a lot of like personal character stuff. We're likely going to be seeing this season, and some stuff, I guess like a Daryl flashback, and we'll talk about that. There was just a lot of references here, and a lot of stuff that they actually talked about that I think will be the theme this season and really does tease a lot of what's going to happen in the finale. Like, there was a lot of talk about Daryl and Carol, like, are we actually living, the life we're supposed to live, or are we just like doing this and that? And I think a lot of the hope that they felt to go home is something that, was a teaser for like what it's going to be like in the finale when they actually go home. Because I really feel like if they don't go home and their story ends with, we're happy out here, we're just going to stay out here, and that's where our stories are going to end. I think that it just doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about a lot of what David Zabel and everyone has been saying, right? Like, this is the end of their like European journey and things like that. So I think that it's going to be one of those things where they do go back home. And I think this season, they're going to be wondering, like, are we living the life that we should be living? And I think there will be a lot of like exploring, that story. But I still think in the end, they are going to go back home because that's something that everybody wants. Like, literally, if you look at the comments of like every post that they make just promoting The Walking Dead, it's always, where's Rick? Like, we want to see Rick and Daryl reunite. And so that is a spinoff. Andrew Lincoln wants to come back. Like, that is something that everyone wants to see. So I think that's something that you just have to do, right? It would make a lot for AMC, and I think it's just something that you have to do. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? It would be a really big success. Like, The Ones Who Live was huge, but having Rick and Daryl reunite, that would be massive. We do see Daryl and Carol in London, though. There was actually a Merle reference here, and I will say the very opening scene here and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in London, I think, was done really great. Actually, there was a Merle reference, which was really cool, and the opening credits also are really incredible. So I will do a video breaking down the opening credits likely tomorrow or the next day. I do want to talk about everything shot for shot because it's totally all new. Like, it's all brand new, and yeah, I actually really do like it because they changed up a lot of the, I guess, obviously instruments and stuff used for the melody and everything of the song, but they stuck with the same song, and so it's cool because like that's The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon's theme song, right? Like, it's this song here, and so they changed it up a little bit there, and yeah, I think what they did there worked really well. I still miss the Walking Dead theme, like I really do, but I think they should go back to using that when Rick and Daryl reunite. Like, that is a moment where if they have that theme song playing there, then people are going to be like, oh, wow, this is amazing, right? Like, I think that's where you'll get goosebumps. Don't use it right now, just save it for a moment like that. We do see walkers everywhere, though, and that's the one thing that we learned about London is that they basically had a border all around London, and they blocked anyone from coming in or anyone leaving. And so what we learned from the new character Julian is that, I guess walkers, or I guess squid is what they call them there, right? I believe that's the new term for walkers, or I guess zombies there in London. And so I guess they were a problem, but people, obviously we've known, throughout The Walking Dead that they are also a really huge problem. And so that's why there's like no one left. And he was the last person, obviously, in London. And so that's a really crazy thing to, I guess to have to be able to live with for him. And yeah, I would say, the whole London storyline in this episode worked really well. I think what I really liked about this story specifically was Daryl and Carol are actually surviving, and I really liked a lot of the scenes where you see them like just trying to find food anywhere. Like they're literally grabbing anything they can from like wrap or just anything. Like if there's crumbs somewhere, they're trying to eat that. Like that's the thing. Like that's what I really want from these spinoffs, and this show did it so great. Like the realistic part to it where these characters are not superheroes. Like, they're trying to survive. And that's why I like what Gimple said. You know, with all the characters reuniting, like, you have to do it where it's going to make sense for the story. It's not going to be the Avengers Endgame, right? It's going to be, just like he said, more like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you need here. You need a story like that where it's very grounded, very cool. They're surviving, and that's what The Walking Dead is, right? So I really liked a lot of the beginning scenes here in London, and London is completely covered with walkers. Like, you cannot go anywhere. And it's hilarious because this is what The Walking Dead Dead City was supposed to be like. Like, the original idea for Dead City was that there's like millions of walkers or thousands of walkers or whatever. I can't remember exactly what was said, but New York was supposed to have so many walkers everywhere, and they had to, you know, get around everywhere by, like, you know, ziplining from building to building. And that changed a lot right away. That was, you know, obviously only really a thing in season 1, and we didn't really see too much of that. So I would say that definitely was a disappointing thing there, but we're seeing that here in this show, right? Like, London has walkers everywhere. They can only travel from rooftop to rooftop, and now that they're gone, and, like, you know, Julian is obviously gone, like, there's no one there anymore. So just a really crazy story. Daryl does see a light, though, and that is the first sign that someone is there. And so right away, we do learn that there is a new character there named Julian. And I think Julian is a really incredible character. First of all, they convinced him to go to America, so that was kind of cool. And he just seemed like he really wanted a friend. And so, you know, he was there by himself for however long, surviving, and he really just wanted a friend. And he kind of reminds me of Princess in that way, because Princess, obviously, in the original Walking Dead series, was a character they just sort of ran into, right? And she was surviving there by herself for a very long time. And yeah, she wanted a friend as well. So kind of cool in that way. And Julian was a very, very likable character. Honestly, it was kind of sad that he was gone that fast, but I still think that just the story that he had here, like, he was a really great, like, one episode character, really hopeful, and just, like, I don't know, like, that's the thing, like, these spin-offs, especially The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, like, they have really amazing characters, and the casting is so perfect. Like, every character in this show I like, there's not a character that I really don't like, you know, in terms of casting and stuff. Like, it works so well. The journey home was very hopeful and inspiring. I really did like when Daryl, Carol, and Julian were, like, on the boat and they were going back to America, and he said, like, you know, based off of my calculations, we should be there in like 11 to 17 days. That was really cool because, like, that's how long it's going to take to get there. And Daryl and Carol were just happy, you know, they were celebrating, and it just felt like a classic movie moment where it's like, there's all this hope, you know, they're smiling, they're happy, and they're going to go home, and then the storm happens, right? I will say I was a little disappointed there. The storm stuff was, you know, really cool, but, like, there was no, like, storm thing that happened where you see the ship, like, you know, in trouble or anything. It was just like, yeah, obviously there was a storm there, they were dealing with it, and then all of a sudden they wake up on the shores of Spain. So I guess that was a budget issue, probably, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, I still like the story there. Actually, what I really liked about that is that we saw a Daryl flashback. It was very short, but I do think that that is something that we're going to see here. I'll do a video talking about this probably right after this, but we're going to see Daryl flashbacks, which is really exciting because that's something that they should definitely get into a lot more. Like, explore the characters' backstories, you know, give us a lot of stuff of what they were like when they were younger, or like pre-apocalypse stuff. Let's learn more stuff about these characters. And I think that they can definitely do that with this spinoff here, because that's sort of the point of the spinoffs, right? So that's what I mean. I think The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon does get it right for the characters. I know there's a lot of issues with season 2, but when you're looking at the 3 seasons so far, season 1 was incredible. Season 2 was good. Like, there was moments that were actually pretty good, like towards the end especially. I think that they get it for the most part, and I think Dead City, that's why they changed showrunners. Like, I don't know for sure, but that's just kind of my assumption, is that they didn't really like, you know, the small scale story that I think Eli Journe was telling with season 1 and 2. And I think we need to get a lot more of what we're getting, you know, with David Zabel. This is just incredible stuff. I want to learn a lot more here. Like, are we going to see Merle, you know, when he was younger? And we're going to see a lot of what Daryl was, you know, going through. We saw some stuff about his grandfather in the first season. I want a lot more of that. So I'm excited about that, to learn a lot more about Daryl. It's just, as someone who's watched the character for so long, this is so exciting. I also want to mention one thing here, and that is that, you know, Carol does say to Daryl that, I'm glad I found you. And, you know, the journey home is going to be something that, well, she doesn't say that, but the journey home is inspirational, right? I think her saying that, like, I'm glad I found you, because she thought that they were going to die. And Daryl's just like, no, you're not saying that. We're going to make it home. And so I just really like that, because there was a lot of moments here where Daryl and Carol were just like talking, and just like, that's the thing. That's what works so well with the spinoff. And that's why when I say season 2 worked, it was more towards the end. A lot of the stuff beforehand, I think, having Carol go over there to France in the way that she did took so much of, I guess what was so exciting about France away. Like, it had nothing to do with Carol at all. It was really awesome to see Carol, but it was just that storyline became such a big part of season 2 that it took so much away from what was really working well in season 1, that the Nest storyline just didn't work well after a while. It was just everywhere. Like, it didn't really go anywhere at all. Then after they ended all of that and like got rid of it all, because it really felt like they were just trying to like rush through it all, and then we get episode 5 and 6, it felt like things were actually starting to, go into place there. Like, oh, this is what the show is actually about. And so to me, I think season 2 was just really a failed season that I think was mishandled, because they couldn't really, tell the story of Carol going to France properly. And they really took away a lot of the Nest storyline, where there should have been a lot more screen time there, but it doesn't really matter. That's all in the past now. Season 3 is obviously starting off great here. And we're seeing that with this first episode. Like, this is why these characters work so well together. And that's why the story is awesome. Carol was really hurt in this episode. I actually thought it was just going to be something where she's like wounded a little bit or whatever, but no, she was actually like, if Daryl didn't, I guess, take that piece of metal out or whatever of her shoulder, like, she would have been gone. I feel like she would have, she was burning up and everything. Like, it was actually pretty serious, where Daryl was like really concerned. And so I'm actually happy that that's actually a part of the storyline here. And we'll talk about what happens at the very ending there, which is kind of like, wait, what's going on? But I actually like the fact that, Carol was very vulnerable in this episode, and Daryl as well. I will say that's the one thing, like, Carol would call out Daryl as well in certain moments, and Daryl would be like, no, you're right, like, I do lie, I do hold stuff back. And it was just something really cool to see, because that's what we want to see from these characters. They can't be tough all the time, like, they're human, and that's what makes them so relatable, because they're just like us, right? Like, that's why The Walking Dead worked so well. It was because it's literally a show where the characters were really relatable. They're all just like normal people trying to survive, and it just became, again, a really relatable story. And so it was awesome to see that here in the premiere. They do learn that they're in Spain, and I actually like how they did it, because it wasn't like this shocking reveal of like, oh wait, where are we? It was just, they saw a map and they're like, okay, we didn't actually go too far, because they kind of knew that they weren't in America, right? So I like how they did all of that. I think it worked well. And also, I would say this was really like true survival. They were trying to survive, I guess, on this island, because they thought they were on an island. And then this group arrives, and I don't know if this is the same group that we're going to see later on in the season with, I guess, the main villains of the season, like with the king and everything, because it seems related, but it also doesn't seem related. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, but there might be 2 villain groups out there. And that's sort of my suspicion as of right now, that we could deal with this group in season 4, maybe. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It was really cool, though. Daryl and Carol had to hide in that moment there. And yeah, I mean, they're in Spain. They were playing I Spy, which is hilarious. Actually, Daryl saying I spy something red, that was hilarious, because obviously he's talking about the blood, right? But it's like, of course Daryl's going to say that. Like, out of anything to say I spy, like just anything around, of course he has to pick the blood, right? So it was like, yeah, it was actually just a funny moment. Like, it's something that I hope people laughed at, because it was cut in a way where I don't know if people would have caught that right away, but yeah, it was just hilarious. But the ending here ends with Carol going missing, and so that's sort of the cliffhanger. Daryl is like, where is Carol? And he's yelling Carol and all that. So for this episode, if I had to give it a number out of 10 or a rating out of 10, I would have to say it's a 9 out of 10 for sure. I thought that this episode worked so well. I really liked just the survival aspect to this, where you had the characters surviving and like trying to make it back home, and you really felt like there was like some inspiration there. The music was so incredible in certain moments, and I think this was a really great refresher. Like, I know there's like water everywhere, and that's such an easy word to use there, but that's exactly how I felt watching this first episode. Season 2 of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon wasn't the best. Dead City Season 2 I definitely liked, but I know a lot of people didn't like, and there's still parts of that season I'm not a big fan of. Like, there's the whole aspect of New Babylon and everything that I'm just like, what is going on with all of this? And I think this episode here just really was the best like refresher of everything Walking Dead, really since The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. Like, I think The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 1 was that. It was a great refresher of everything. And then we got, I guess Dead City before that, which was cool, but a lot of people didn't necessarily like. I would say that The Ones Who Live was great, but obviously there was issues there. So I just think that this episode here, and we'll have to wait and see how the season plays out, but at least for this one episode, it was honestly a really great episode. I think that this premiere is probably, my favorite premiere since, I'm trying to think of like what episode I would have liked more. But obviously the Ones Who Lives premiere was also really great. I would say the first episodes of a lot of these spinoffs are honestly really awesome. So definitely post all your thoughts down below on this episode here. What was your favorite moment? Are there any questions that you have about the episode? And what are you looking forward to for episode 2? Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.